work with ChromeDriver, you basically need to go to this URL and download the exe file for ChromeDriver and keep it at a particular location, right? This exe file has been made by the guys who have made ChromeDriver. Chrome is by Google. Okay, do not try to install this ChromeDriver.exe. Okay, do not install it. Just keep it at this path. Note down the path and make sure that Chrome is installed on your machine. It doesn't mean that if you have downloaded ChromeDriver.exe, you can skip installing Chrome. Make sure Chrome is installed. Make sure this file is there, exe file. Do not try to run this. Nothing will happen if you run this. And set a system property. Okay. If in your code, if you simply write ChromeDriver driver equals to new ChromeDriver. ChromeDriver is an inbuilt class. If you simply write this and run this, you will get an error like this. You cannot write like this. You have to write a line called as system dot set the property okay, it's the property called as in the error it was there webdriver.chrome.driver webdriver.chrome.driver and the property name, the path is, this is the path ChromeDriver inside this folder, ChromeDriver.exe. You double slash and you set the system property like this. System.set property, the path to your ChromeDriver, the webdriver.chrome.driver property, and this system is an inbuilt class. Okay, set property is a static function in that class. I told you about static functions, right? You can call them directly by naming this, for example, planet.sun. Similarly, system is an inbuilt class, set property is a static function in the class. So when you run this now, Chrome will open. This is the Chrome log. See, Chrome has opened, and in output you will see the Chrome log. So if I have to take Chrome to a certain website, you can write driver.get google.com with the protocol. Okay, and when you run this, you will see that a Chrome driver will open up. It will go to Google and you see that, right? Now this is about ChromeDriver, Firefox driver. Then there is something known as driver for Internet Explorer, that is known as IE driver. I cannot talk about it because I have i6 on my machine, but if you have i8, you can work on that. And only thing is, you will have to just do one thing, just turn off the protected mode in i8. Okay, right? Why didn't, question being asked is, why didn't you set system.set property? I set it for Chrome. I used it to set it for Chrome. You mean to say for Firefox? Well, for Firefox, you need to set webdriver.firefox.driver property. Sometimes you need to set in very few machines. If Selenium is not able to find the exe file for Firefox, then you need to set that property. Generally in all the machines, Selenium is able to find the exe file. You don't need to do that. In case of Chrome, okay, if you set the property to the Chrome exe file, you won't be able to work with it. You have to set the property webdriver.chrome.driver to the ChromeDriver.exe, which has been released by the Selenium guys. This exe file is by Selenium guys to work with Selenium. Okay, if you don't set it, it will not work. but the normal Firefox, it works with Selenium. Okay, this property is specifically for Chrome, right? So that's why I took it, because the way you work with Chrome is little bit different than the way you work with Firefox. And for IE, we have IE driver, and for that, make sure it's better that you turn off protected mode in IE. Just go to Google and search how to turn off protected mode in IE. IE7, IE8 both are supported right now, and IE6. It's not a very good browser. Now, what about other browsers like Safari, Opera? Opera driver is there, but it's provided by Opera, guys. It's not stable. Safari is also not stable. Safari, I have heard people saying that, especially the Selenium guys, that it will be stable in few days. Okay, they have already launched it officially. It's there in the documentation as well. But certain things like handling pop-up windows to doing tab browsing and all, it's not so simple with Safari. So sorry, Safari. Okay. So with the Safari browser, it's not so simple. Okay, so these two, I'll not concentrate on them that much. They are not so stable. I tried working on them, but I was not so successful. Okay, now, but Safari is getting stabler day by day, and with every release, I'm seeing improvement in that. And as soon as I see that it's stable, I'll release videos on it. Right. So now, in this case, in case of Firefox, Chrome, Internet Explorer drivers, I need to use functions. Suppose I want to go to a website and log in into that website using Selenium. Okay. Now to do that, I can go to a website, but in order to interact with the website, in order to interact with the web pages of that website, okay, we need to study about something known as interfaces in Java. Okay. We cannot just do it like that. You need to study the concept of interfaces in object-oriented programming to move further. Right? Now, what is an interface? Okay, I give a very simple example. That is, suppose I have a class. Okay, suppose I have a class called laptop. Okay. I have a class called laptop, and or rather I'll delete it. I'll make a new interface. Instead of class, I'll make a new interface. Okay, and interface is just a minute, my battery is going down. Yeah. Interface is like this. That is, you make a class, bank. You make an interface called bank. Okay. So you get the Java file like this. In this public interface bank is written. Okay. Interface is something which describes the contract. Interface is something which tells you what the application is doing. Okay. In interface, we just have the functions, but we don't have the function bodies. For example, I can have a function called public void transfer. This is what a bank does. And public void like this. So these are the two functions in my bank interface, right? So these two functions are common for all the banks, and just by looking at the bank interface, I can tell operations which the bank is doing, right? Inside the bank interface, you can have a string, right? You can have string say or int minimum balance, right, equals to 1000, right? So what will happen is this tells you that the bank, all the banks should have the minimum balance of 1000 rupees or whatever it is. Okay. Now in the bank interface, this is the bank interface, and it's got two functions, one variable. The functions, they do not have the body. Okay, there is no function body in case of interfaces in Java, right? What you need to do is you need to implement this interface. For example, I'll make a class known as HSBC, and I'll write public class HSBC implements bank. So this means that HSBC class is saying that I'll follow all the procedures which are defined by bank. That means the minimum bank balance should be 1000. There should be two functions, check and clear check. So if you open the interface class bank, okay, you have an error under HSBC. You move the mouse over the error and select the feature add unimplemented methods. So you will have the function transfer and clear check implemented. Inside it you can write HSBC transferring, and inside this you can write HSBC clearing check. Okay, so you have a HSBC class which is implementing bank. It's got two functions, override, the @override. This symbol is not mandatory, you can remove it, but if you are keeping this, that's a good practice. If anybody looks at your code, he will be able to judge that these two functions are coming from the HSBC interface, from the bank interface which HSBC is implementing. Okay. Now what is the usage of this? Why have I done this? How will this be used? How will Selenium use this? Okay, I'll talk about those topics. Fine. For time being, let us create one more class known as city, and the city class also implements the bank interface. Okay, so you add the unimplemented methods, and in city bank also you write system.out.println city transferring. Okay, and in this you can write city clearing check. Okay, so you have two functions, transfer and clear check, which are implemented by Citibank as well as HSBC. Citibank does it in its own way, HSBC does it in its own way, right? Similarly, okay, in Selenium API there are inbuilt classes and inbuilt interfaces. Everybody has heard about the name Selenium or the name WebDriver. WebDriver is nothing but an interface. In documentation, whatever is there in italics is an interface. If you look at this WebDriver interface, then this is the interface WebDriver. This lays down the rules what the implementing methods should be having. The implementing methods should be having functions like this: switch to, quit, navigate, manage, window and get title, get page source, get current URL. Okay, get. We just saw this get function. We used this get function in the previous classes to navigate to pages, right? So this is a WebDriver interface which defines what all functions are required to be used, and these are the implementing classes. This is very important. Android driver, Android WebDriver, ChromeDriver, event firing WebDriver, Firefox, HTML unit, IE, iPhone, remote, Safari driver. Safari driver is the latest one, not so stable. So that means that all these classes will have these functions. So you really don't have to worry. What is the function for clicking on a link in Firefox and what will be the function to click on a link in Chrome? All the functions will be same because all these classes, they are implementing the WebDriver interface, and the WebDriver interface lays down the rules. Tomorrow if a new class is added for a new browser, that will also implement the WebDriver interface. Okay, so getting my point right, that interface is out here and there can be many things which are following the interface. It's mandatory for my HTTP bank class to implement all the functions in the bank interface. If I don't implement even one of the functions, I will get an error. Okay, so city class implements bank, HSBC implements bank, right? Now let us make a new class known as test bank. So what we saw was we saw that WebDriver is an interface, okay, and all these classes, iDriver, ChromeDriver, and Safari driver, all of them are implementing the interface. That's why if you go to your Selenium example, the get function for ChromeDriver and get for Firefox was same because it is coming from the WebDriver interface. Okay, in your test bank.java out here, if I create the object of HSBC, I can do that. I can write HSBC h equals to new HSBC, or I can write city c equals to new city. But if I call the functions, if I write h dot transfer and c dot transfer, the function name is same, but a different function will be called. This will call the function of HSBC and this will call the function of city. So suppose there are 1000 banks, I will make all the 1000 banks implement the bank interface, and if I want to know what the application is supposed to do, right, you can simply open the bank interface. You will come to know what the application is doing, right? Pretty simple. Okay. Similarly, in WebDriver as well, they made one interface WebDriver which defines the rules. So all these classes will be implementing the WebDriver interface. Okay. Now there is another way, another important concept in HSBC. Okay. If I make a function called public void international transfer. Now this feature is something which is only given by HSBC and not given by any other bank. Fine. So international transfer facility is there in HSBC, but it's not there in any other bank. Fine. It's not the part of the interface. Okay. So in my test bank, I can call h dot international transfer, but I cannot call c dot international transfer. You cannot do that. But there is one more way. You can write like this: bank b equals to new HSBC. Now what is this? This is little different than what we had done. The reference name is of the bank, the object is of the class HSBC. You understand? I told you about references and objects, right? Out here, the reference is of the bank class, the object is of the HSBC class. This means that we can only access the overridden functions in HSBC. This means I can write b dot transfer, I can write b dot say, what was the one, clear check, right? But I cannot write b dot international transfer. But what is the use of this? Okay, what is the use of this? I'll talk about that. Okay, I'll talk about that, and maybe tomorrow I'll talk about that, but not today. But remember two things, that in case of interfaces, right, you can directly create the objects of the classes, or you can write the name of the interface equals to new name of the class. That is, in my Selenium example, okay, I'll comment out the part for ChromeDriver. In case of Firefox driver, instead of writing Firefox driver d equals to new Firefox driver, I can write WebDriver d equals to new Firefox driver. WebDriver is the interface, and Firefox driver is the class which is implementing the interface. So we writing like this, I can only access those functions in Firefox driver which are overridden by WebDriver from WebDriver. That is, if I go to my Firefox driver class, this one, I cannot call these functions which are just for Firefox driver this way. But what is the usage of this? We'll talk about that usage as well as we go on, right? So this will also work. If you run this, this will also open two Firefox windows. I'm running this. One will go to Gmail, one will go to Yahoo, right? Just hold on. You see that? One goes to Gmail and one goes to Yahoo. Right? So this will also work. That's not a big deal, but there's a potential difference. Okay, this is used specifically in the cases where we need to work with different browsers. Okay, for example, what we do is we read the browser name. Generally, this browser name, where is it read from? It is read from an Excel file, it is read from an XML file or a property file, or we can say a text file, and then we keep condition, and we write like this: WebDriver dr equals to null in the beginning. That means the WebDriver object is not pointing to any reference, is not pointing to any. Then we write conditions. If the browser name is equal to Mozilla, in that case initialize the driver object to new Firefox driver, like this. Else if, you got it right, something like this: browser is equal to IE, then driver equals to new Internet Explorer driver, like this. And you can keep on adding else conditions. Else if it is equal to Chrome, then you can make it, if it is equal to Chrome, for Chrome there are two things. First of all, you need to set the system property, and after that you need to initialize the ChromeDriver only after setting the system property, like this. And after that you can write dr dot get the URL, that is http yahoo.com. So if I change my, let me do one thing. So if I change my browser from the external source like an Excel file, XML file, property file, text file, I am currently pointing it to Mozilla. So if I run this, Mozilla will open. Okay. Initially I kept the driver object null. Okay. See that Mozilla has opened and it is taking me to yahoo.com. So whichever browser you are opening, that browser will definitely open, and I closed it in between, that's why I threw an error. So that browser will definitely open, and the functions will be common. because all these classes, WebDriver, Firefox driver, Internet Explorer driver, Chrome driver, they all are implementing the WebDriver interface. They all will have those functions. Okay, so right. Okay. Now, if anybody has any questions, last 15-10 minutes, I'm just keeping the session for questions. If you have any questions regarding the course, regarding Selenium, anything regarding the topics which I taught you today, okay, please feel free to ask me. Okay, so this is 10 minutes remaining. Please feel free to ask me any question if you are having. All right. So let me know.